Hello and welcome. Good afternoon, gentlemen, uh, to this Football Delhi Summit. The theme is making Delhi a vibrant footballing society, and we are going to discuss the role of the media in making Delhi a footballing society or city. So I will like to introduce myself. I work for the Outlook magazine, having spent several years in print. That includes my first job in the Telegraph, then Asian Age, then Times of India, and then till last with Hindustan Times. I've had the pleasure of working with ESPN Star Sports for 10 years, and then 3 years still with NDTV. Uh, I now work for Outlook. I look after sports and several other things as far as digital is concerned. Several years in print, and I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the guests on this panel, most of whom are are familiar faces, and the fact that I have had the pleasure of working with most of them. Mihir and Siddharth, probably the generation after us. Uh, Fantastic to meet you. But as far as the introduction is concerned, I will start with perhaps the senior most in this group, which is Suresh Kaushik. He was the sports editor of Jansatta and was based in Delhi. He played football himself and a football lover to the core. Then I will come to, I can't. So, Suresh, welcome to this Football E-Summit.
Thank
And
you, Soumitra.
and we'd like to hear a lot from you because you're a quintessential Delhi man who's going to speak on this subject. And I have another senior partner colleague, we call him Jaydeep Jaydeep Basu. Indian football is synonymous with him as far as football journalism is concerned. He has worked for Hindustan Times, he has worked for Telegraph, and he's seen the best of football in both the cities. So, welcome to the show, Jaydeep.
Thank you, Soumitra.
and and my good friend Vijay Lokapally. He's evergreen. I always call him evergreen. I have seen him for the last 35 years, and he's as chirpy, cheerful, and he now has his own video blog, which is very well appreciated. And Vijay has worked all his life, perhaps for the Hindu and Sportstar, as we sincerely say, like Chuni Goswami spent all his footballing career with Mohan Bagan. Okay, and I would go to another colleague of mine. So Vijay, welcome. Welcome to the show. You're not audible. You have to kind of, you're not audible. Can you just check your audio, Vijay? No, you have now muted yourself. You have to unmute.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now you're fine. Okay, I'd like to introduce my ex-colleague, uh, Joy Bhattacharya. Joy Bhattacharya has seen everything. I mean, he's done everything in life. The fact that, I worked with him for 10 years with ESPN Star Sports. He was our executive producer. He has produced live football shows and God knows so many, all the beautiful things on ESPN Star Sports. He was part of India's World Cup on the 17 World Cup organizing team. We've seen junior football from very close, and now is into Pro Volleyball League. He is the CEO of the Pro Volleyball League, which is not an easy task to do. But Joy has always been like that. He loves challenges, and don't forget that nobody can beat him in table tennis. I don't know how many of you know that he's very good with TT, and we will hear from Joy as well. And two of our younger friends, that is Siddharth. Siddharth works for the Times of India. He's covered a lot of football. He's perhaps Vijay will probably agree with me that he's the next generation after us. So Siddharth and Mihir works for the Indian Express, and he's one of the reporters we always look forward to reading his reports in the Indian Express. A very credible reporter, and he's also going to speak on football in India and of course Delhi. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to all of you. Uh, I think I don't know by design or whatever strategy. They have given us exactly 90 minutes, which is full. It's the full football match. That's a lot of time. So 90 minutes, fine. Just a few SOPs. I think we all know what SOPs mean now. Yesterday, BCCI had a 100-page SOP for IPL, but we're not talking about IPL today. Very simple SOPs that try and keep your cameras on, and especially when you're speaking, make sure that you're on mute so that people can kind of ask questions, or people can hear you clearly. And if you want to say something, you can, if you go down and see, you can raise your hand or just make a sign that I want to say something. We have enough time, but the theme is obviously Delhi. We will try and stick to Delhi as much as possible. Of course, we have to talk about other cities, because when you talk about football in Delhi, it has to be that we have to talk about Calcutta, we have to talk about Goa, we have to talk about Mumbai, and it'd be nice to get your perspective and how football works in the rest of the country and how it compares with Delhi. I won't take long, so I think I will very quickly go around and ask a quick comment from each one of you, saying what does Delhi football mean to you? And I'll start with Suresh. सुरेश जी, आप बोल सकते हैं कि आपके लिए दिल्ली फुटबॉल क्या मतलब रहेगा? We will have a longer discussion. We'll have various topics to cover. But very quickly, what does Delhi football mean to you?
मेरे लिए दिल्ली फुटबॉल एक बहुत ही उम्दा प्लेटफॉर्म रहा है। पहले मैंने एक खिलाड़ी के तौर पे इसमें खेलना शुरू किया, फिर मैंने एक पत्रकार के रूप में इसे अपनाया। मुझे एडवांटेज ये रही कि मेरे पिताजी भी इसी फील्ड में रहे, उन्होंने भी न्यू दिल्ली हीरोज के लिए खेला कई साल, और वो भी खेल पत्रकार रहे। तो दिल्ली मेरी रग रग में बसी हुई है, दिल्ली फुटबॉल, और मैंने इसको 40-45 साल से अच्छी तरह देखा है, परखा है, अधिकारियों को भी, खिलाड़ियों को भी।
तो आपसे तो बहुत कुछ हम सुनेंगे आगे में, और we'll go to the youngest in this panel, perhaps Mihir. Mihir, what does football Delhi mean to you? I mean, Delhi and football mean to you. Mihir, can you hear me?
Yeah. So, I mean, I moved to Delhi just 5 years ago. So a lot of time I've spent watching Delhi football on TV, and it wasn't really local football in Delhi per se. It was always the national tournaments which were held in Delhi. So it used to be the Nehru Cups and all those tournaments, which towards later part of last decade were kind of popular as well and regular. So it always meant as the home for Indian football, because that's where all the national team matches used to be played most of the times back then. But very little locally, and I guess we'll be talking about it in depth as we move. But yeah, Delhi football locally is a concept that is still alien to me after spending 5 years in the city.
Very much, because I've been working in Delhi since 2004. I came as the head of Sports Center, which was the ESPN show. And yes, that's been a concern that we didn't cover much of football in Delhi in terms of leagues. Yeah, in fact, that's the topic we have to address today, that what ails Delhi football, so that, we have to look at the brighter side of it. We have Football Delhi organizing this meet. By the way, today is Sunil Chhetri's 36th birthday. I think all of us take this opportunity to wish him a very happy birthday, 36th birthday. He's the captain, fantastic in terms of football, if you're concerned. So I will go to now Jaydeep, Basu. And Jaydeep, what does football mean to you in Delhi?
Yeah, initially football meant to me local football, because I am born and brought up with Saxena Sporting Club, which one of the best clubs in Delhi at one point of time, because my uncle was the secretary of the club for several years, and the club was almost run from our house only. On every Sunday, the jerseys were being washed in our house only, and my mother and my aunt always complained that they didn't have space to put their clothes. So Delhi football to me meant local football, because I'm born and brought up with local football, local league. Whether the standard is very good or bad, at one point of time the standard was very good. And secondly, Delhi football meant to me, which I think all my colleagues will also say the same thing, meant to me were Durand Cup and BCL Cup. Because 2 months in the winter, we were engrossed with football in Delhi. with the best players from best clubs from all over the country and playing in Delhi. So
Absolutely.
football in Delhi was a very vibrant culture at that point of time.
We'll come to it.
Why it didn't happen? That you will come to later.
Yes, you will come to it.
What happened to it?
You will have plenty to share because you have covered a lot of. I mean, I being a Calcuttan, when football meant DCM, Durand, Rovers, Irish. These are the four tournaments we always thought that they were the right up there. And if you win one of them, means you're the best. Okay, Siddharth, you've seen world football, you've covered world football, you're Delhi, you work for Times of India in Delhi. What does football in Delhi mean to you?
Yeah, football in Delhi would imply journalistic grind for me. That's the first thing which comes to mind. I probably straddle the two eras of Mihir and Jaydeep. Is that he talks of an old time, Mihir says that it's still alien term. So I belong in a time in between when it kind of changed. But for me, loving football and loving the idea of probably writing, football in Delhi represented work, the daily grind of a reporter learning his trade. That was, and like Jaydeep mentioned, probably also the history of the sporting history of Delhi was seen best through its football, its local football. The Durand, the DCM were the national idea, but locally you can probably get an insight of what the immediate post-independence history of India and the capital city would have been through its football. It's funny because Bob Horton brought international football to the Ambedkar Stadium, like Mihir would attest. But he also probably diluted the meaning of Durand and the Rovers in Bombay and the IFA in Calcutta and the DCM had finished. So it's a strange paradox because at one point the national team played in Delhi, it drew crowds, but the local tournament, the big draw, the Durand and the DCM, they declined.
Yes, I'm sure you'll have a lot to share as we go along in the show. And I'll come to Vijay. Vijay has been a veteran star. He's covered every sport, largely cricket and of course football. I saw one of your video shows that you've been doing lately and you shared it on Twitter. And it was dedicated to Ghaus Mohammed. Ghaus Mohammed, I know him as a commentator, but you've dedicated a show to Ghaus Mohammed, who used to be a footballer. So, in short, what does Delhi football mean to you, Vijay?
I think for me, Delhi football meant hot summer days at the President's Estate covering local football, Talkatora ground, Nehru Stadium, the outside ground, and then lovely winter afternoons at Ambedkar Stadium, like DCM and Durand, and then making great friends like Suresh, Kaushik, and Jaydeep Basu. We have spent so much time, probably during the football season, we would spend more time with each other than with our family. Football was an obsession, not cricket, mind you. And some wonderful friends from Old City. They were the ones custodians of Delhi football, really, and great promoters of the sport. And some very nice friends from Chittaranjan Park. They still are friends. So I have some very fond memories of Delhi football. Unfortunately, it's just now memory. And like I and Jaydeep would go back and talk about those great old days. So Suresh and Jaydeep, I remember very well meeting at these local football matches.
We will have to overturn this unfortunate part, or the memories will now have to come back. That's the idea of this discussion. So you guys have to say, you have to try educate Football Delhi and see how to take this forward. Of course, we as a media also have a big role to play, and how we have played our roles, how are we going to play our roles. And I think for a perspective from Joy has seen a lot of things. He's done everything from Harshaki coach to football broadcasting, cricket broadcasting, whatnot. And Joy, let's say from an outsider, what does Delhi football mean to you? You're a Calcutta.
So 2-3 things. I'll go back to tropes that things that people have already spoken about. So it was always Durand, DCM. But to that, I'll add one more tournament which was very vital when we used to follow it, which was the Subrata Cup. So scores, this is the school that's coming up. Modhamgram school is going forward in the Subrata Cup. Northeast teams are coming. So for some reason, the Subrata Cup used to be something that from the outside was of great interest, because that was one tournament that always the finals ended up being played in Delhi. So it's definitely that the Durand, DCM, then Subrata. Again, I go back to what Vijay has spoken about. Lots of support for the likes of East Bengal, for example, in places like Chittaranjan Park. A lot of, and Delhi football is really about Chittaranjan Park in the old city. I mean, that for me was the center of Delhi football. All the big clubs were from there. Everyone was from there. But the only addition I'll do to that is that was Delhi football. That does no longer exist. The only good part is there are a lot more kids playing football today. Maybe their heroes today are Messi and Ronaldo and not Delhi footballers. Maybe they worship different clubs. But there are kids now coming into who are playing football in Delhi with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy because they love the game. And that can't be bad news. There must be some way to bring them to us. So I believe that there's a past in Delhi football. There's a great future in Delhi football. Maybe we are just the present who are just looking at it and hoping that things get better.
Well, you've seen the present. You just 2017 FIFA Under 17 World Cup. I mean, it was a fabulous tournament, and it was an eye opener. And Delhi was, right in the center of attraction, and there's a lot of baby leagues, grassroots development going on. Are we headed towards the right direction? Do you think there is the right, the synergy between the Football Association of India and the state associations?
Look, the truth of it is, and I say this with regard to anything, almost every Indian association, sporting association, is disastrously managed. Almost this thing. So I think what Football Delhi is now trying to put together is great. They're trying to make a genuine effort to do it. I mean, by and large, our officials do not do justice to the game we have. And a peculiar concentration. See, what is happening now, Soumitra, in television is that the best get richer and richer because there's so much more television. You basically get much more choices. So you can watch English Premier League, you can watch this, you can watch that, you can watch ISL, and you can watch Delhi football. So now to become a television product or to make something that looks vibrant and good in Delhi, you are basically competing not with people who will come to the ground, but people who are switching a channel. So the fundamental issue lies there. And I think that is the big thing because, see, there is money in Delhi. If you go to see strange things, like there's this Delhi International Football League that happens, and it happens somewhere in Vasant Kunj. And if you ever go there, you will see the who's who of Delhi bringing their kids out there to play football at a particular age. Okay, which means that you're reaching influencers. You're reaching people, a lot of people who wouldn't ever switch on to a Delhi match or would not come to a ground in Delhi. They're coming to watch their kids play in Delhi in places in. So there is interest in football somewhere. There is interest in football. There is value in football. The question is whether we can convert that interest and value in football into something a bit more than that, and have some sort of a senior league that also starts making sense. And those are very difficult things because finance is always a problem. And when you're up against a national league, the AFF. See, the way football is now done, it's one big league. So all the big money goes into big leagues which are put out there. And slowly all the other tournaments are pushed aside. So the challenge to try and do something that actually can stand between that and actually give you a product is a difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing. But I'm glad at least Football Delhi is standing. It's trying to make a brand for itself. It's trying to make a stand for the kind of things which are important. And I'm really hopeful. That's all I can say.
I'm just saying from a media standpoint, I'll have this question directed to my younger colleagues who are in this profession, Siddharth and Mihir. How would you, let's say, Times of India and Indian Express support Football Delhi in terms of, competing with the bigger leagues? Because obviously, as Joy said, that you're actually competing in a space which is very tight, and people have the option to choose the big leagues and just ignore the small ones. So what would a Times of India or an Indian Express or a Hindustan Times do to augment the work that Football Delhi is trying to do? Siddharth.
Yeah. I think first off, we need to draw a balance. Like Joy mentioned, there's a great viewership, there's a great market for a product on TV, which is definitely more attractive. So people, younger people, the older people, younger editors are watching live football from Europe on TV. So that's the demand. That's got to be on the pages, like it or not. It says that how smart you are to recognize the fact and start with it. At the same time, the sport at the local level should be good enough, should be robust enough for it to fight for its place on our own pages. We take care. I would like to believe that we give it its due space, whatever is happening, a little or a large, uh, on a regular basis on our pages. There is this dilemma on probably while we construct our pages, that, oh look, probably local sport is not being represented enough on our pages. But it's also happened that for the last 15 odd years, local sport, not just football, has totally vanished from the sports pages. It's just not football. It's just not the Times of any other place. Hockey doesn't make a show. DDCA is just marginally there. TT used.
For the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I'm talking about match reports. I'm talking about scores. I'm talking about little player profiles. Over time, last 20 years, maybe it's a sign of the times. Maybe it's what the reader wants or what the market wants. But at the same time, we've probably fought to give Delhi football a little space. I'd like to believe that.
How does it work in Express? I mean, I've seen that you do very critical stories, a lot of credibility in those stories. But how does it work in terms of coverage? Like Siddharth said, that we like to give some space to football, Delhi football, if there is at all something happen. How does Express see this? I mean, how does Express view Delhi football?
No, so like you rightly said, for us to cover a tournament, there has to be a tournament for that. And for the longest time, we've seen in Delhi, there hasn't been a credible, sustained league. Unfortunately, earlier this year, when I met Shaji at the Nehru Stadium, it was in the early stage of the Delhi league, and because of the pandemic, it had to be stopped. But look, I mean, we spoke about the small local leagues competing with the giants, and it is, as much as the media is responding, I think it's also a space where we have to position our league. I mean, if you're going to compete with the giants, you're always going to fail. I'll always look at Mizoram for an example, because the Mizo Premier League, they went hyper local, and after they went hyper local, they got Zonet as their sponsors to show the matches on TV, to live stream them, and that's how they built their brand. And that's how they probably got the entire national press's attention as well. Aizal obviously was a product of that. It wasn't an independent success story. So entire ecosystem was there. And I think if we have a similar ecosystem in Delhi, where you have a robust local league, which is played regularly, it shouldn't be a case where it's held once in 1 month of a year, and then it vanishes, and after 11 months you have to come again and look after it. It can't be like that, because there has to be a narrative. I mean, a narrative is a very important part of sports reporting, I guess. And unless we have that kind of a narrative, and I think it's our responsibility as well to help build that narrative. But for that, you need a product which I guess is strong enough to sustain that.
Absolutely, because there are marketing compulsions as well. Because I can remember when my 3 years with HT, every time we had our weekly meetings with marketing, Delhi football never came up. They would always talk about the big products. So we didn't want to specifically mention the big products, which Joy has already said. But I mean, it's a no-brainer. What are the big products, and and what sells and what doesn't sell. Yet, when we have covered football, we have always done the wrong stories, which does not talk about the leagues, but we talk about the stories why the league is not happening. The question is always do the negative stories, which negative maybe, but maybe those negatives also have a positive effect down the line. Yeah. And so my next question to Suresh ji, आपने जब आप खेलना शुरू किया, आप जब पत्रकार बने, तो कैसा, what kind of coverage would you give Delhi kind of Delhi football, the leagues, and what do you see in Jansatta now?
मैंने जब खेलना शुरू किया, मैंने अर्ली 70s में शुरू किया था। तो उस समय दिल्ली फुटबॉल में 4 डिवीजन हुआ करते थे, ABCD। और मैंने D डिवीजन से शुरू किया था, फिर A डिवीजन में भी खेला न्यू दिल्ली हीरोज के लिए। तो ये जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होता था कि A से हमें B में जाना है, B में C में जाना है, C से फिर आगे बढ़ना है और A में जाना है। A में जाने का मतलब ये होता था कि एक इंसेंटिव ये होता था कि 10 टीमें हुआ करती थी, उन 10 टीमों को DCM और दूरन में खेलने का मौका मिलता था। तो ये सबसे बड़ा इंसेंटिव था DCM एक खिलाड़ी के लिए। और खिलाड़ी के लिए उस समय मैंने जब शुरू किया था तो उसके बाद थोड़ा सा दिल्ली फुटबॉल में गुटबाजी शुरू हो गई थी। इसका नुकसान भी हुआ टीमों को। 2 ग्रुप बन गए, दोनों ग्रुप अपनी अलग लीग करवाते थे। तो इसने जो 1-1.5 दशक था उसमें ये नुकसान की भरपाई जाकर 96 के आसपास हुई, जब सूद और नासिर अली ने दिल्ली फुटबॉल की कमान संभाली। नहीं तो कोर्ट कचहरी की धक्के में फुटबॉलर की ऐसी की तैसी होती रही। तो
इसका असर कवरेज में कैसे पड़ा?
कवरेज में तो ये पड़ा ना, जब 2 ग्रुप हो गए तो एक बार DSJ की मीटिंग में भी ये चर्चा मुद्दा उठा कि ये दोनों ग्रुप अपनी अलग अलग लीग करवा रहे हैं। तो वहां भी हमने ये डिसाइड किया एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी की मीटिंग में कि ये दोनों ग्रुप कर रहे हैं और हमें बेवकूफ बना रहे हैं। कौन पूरी लीग होती नहीं थी, आधा तो छोड़ दिया बीच में कुछ, तो हम क्यों कवरेज दें इनको। तो हमने ये डिसाइड किया कि हमने दोनों ही टीमों की लीग लेनी बंद कर दी कि आप अपना पहले घर संभालो, घर ठीक करो, हमारे पास आओ और हम आपको कवरेज देंगे और अच्छी से अच्छी कवरेज देंगे। और कवरेज कभी भी खराब पॉइंट नहीं रहा। 50 के दशक से ही अच्छी कवरेज मिलती रही है दिल्ली फुटबॉल को। दिल्ली फुटबॉल में पहले 50 के दशक में खेल का पेज एक हुआ करता था टीमों के पास, अखबारों के पास। उसमें डबल कॉलम 3 कॉलम में न्यूज छपती थी।
जी।
यही नहीं, फोटोग्राफ्स भी छपते थे। और मैं आपको 50s के दौर की बात बता रहा हूँ। न्यू दिल्ली हीरोज उस समय की सबसे अच्छी टीम मानी गई थी। उन्होंने 50 से 60 के बीच में 6 बार लीग की टाइटल जीता था, एक बार लगातार 4 साल भी जीता था। तो उन 4 सालों में के बाद एक नवभारत टाइम्स ने एक पीस निकाला था, सुशील जैन उनके खेल संपादक थे। उन्होंने एक पूरी टीम के ऊपर पीस निकाला था, एक एक खिलाड़ी के फोटो के साथ उसका परिचय दिया था। जैसे हमारा बाद में क्रिकेट वगैरह के खिलाड़ियों का जाता था ना प्रोफाइल, उस तरह प्रोफाइल में खिलाड़ी की क्वालिटीज क्या थी, खिलाड़ी कैसा खेलता था, उसके क्या योगदान रहा। तो इस तरह एक इतना अच्छा कवरेज मिलता था कि खिलाड़ी इंसेंटिव महसूस करता था, उसका मनोबल बढ़ता था। और उसके बाद जब मैंने पत्रकारिता शुरू की, मैं DCM में भी खेला, दूरन में भी खेला। तो हमारा इधरपुर से भी मुकाबला हुआ था, आपकी कैलकाटा की टीम से खेले थे, उसके खिलाफ भी खेला। तब भी कोई कवरेज की कोई दिक्कत नहीं होती थी, टीमें क्वालिफाई करती थी। तो और सबको ये होता था कि अच्छी टक्कर देनी है, हार भले ही जाओ। और कई टीमें हमारी शिमला यंग्स, यंग स्टार, यंग मैन वगैरह कई बार सेकेंड राउंड में भी पहुंची, लीग राउंड में पहुंची। मतलब पहले नॉकआउट सिस्टम चलता था, तो नॉकआउट में बड़ी बड़ी टीमों को टक्कर दे के मारा है। तो पहला इंसेंटिव बहुत अच्छा तो था, खिलाड़ी के लिए भी था। इन सब चीजों के लिए खिलाड़ी को बड़ा नुकसान हुआ फुटबॉल के वजह से। गुटबाजी जब हुई तो खिलाड़ियों के लिए ये हुआ कि कुछ भी छपना बंद हो गया। छपने बंद होने का मतलब ये हुआ कि आपकी अखबार में कोई न्यूज़ नहीं आएगी। कोई भी खिलाड़ी यही चाहता है कि मैं खेल रहा हूँ, अपना योगदान दे रहा हूँ, मेरी प्रशंसा हो, मैंने गोल किया है तो उसका कुछ मेरी कटिंग बने, क्लिपिंग बने। वो क्लिपिंग के कितने मायने हुआ करते थे वो आज सबको पता लगता है, क्योंकि यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन के लिए भी वो क्लिपिंग काम आती थी। आप स्टेट रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हो, स्टेट की टीम छपती थी, तो आपको ये होता था कि ये देखो मेरा स्टेट में नाम आया है। यही नहीं, नौकरी स्किल में उसका कितने मायने रहते थे। ये स्टेट बैंक, पंजाब नेशनल बैंक, दिल्ली ऑडिट और बैंक, डीडीए, ये कई टीमें हैं जो सिर्फ इनके खिलाड़ी अपनी लीग के परफॉर्मेंस पे ही इनको नौकरी मिली और इन्होंने अच्छा खेल दिखाया, अच्छे ऊंचाइयां पाई। लेकिन अब तो मुझे दुख होता है एक मीडिया कर्मी के नाते भी, एक खिलाड़ी के नाते में, कि जब मुझे देखता हूँ कि अखबार में लोकल फुटबॉल के लिए कोई जगह नहीं है।
Jaydeep, you've been with HT, I mean, during the good days of Delhi football. Suresh said that there would be double column stories with photographs. I mean, how would an English paper like HT treat the Delhi soccer in the good days, I'm saying?
See, in the good, there is nothing, Soumitra is called good day or bad day. If the local football was good, if there was success, people were ready to publish it. See, what Vijay, my two oldest friends, Vijay and Suresh, they are talking about is right. There used to be a very good coverage. Very good coverage used to be because there was good football. A newspaper is not here to promote anything. Newspaper is basically what the report success. When the teams were doing well, when the local teams had players who were playing for different teams in Calcutta, in Salgaonkar, they were regularly supplying players to other. What we are talking today is what? Why we have gathered today? We have gathered today because it is Sunil Chhetri's birthday, isn't it, Soumitra? And
Yes.
he is an out and out local player. He's a Delhi player. He has become a national hero today from Delhi, and it was in 1998 to 2001, 2002. This period he really flourished into a football, and then went over to Calcutta to bigger teams, which is fine. So those days football was good, so the coverage was also good. I won't straight away blame the newspapers. And there was another thing, which over the years, I am also doing this journalism now for close to 40 years, which I've realized that in journalism has changed. Soumitra, you also know, it has changed. A lot of international events have come up. A lot of international things have come up. The success of the Indians at the international level, whether it is in cricket or in shooting or in boxing or in wrestling or whatever it is, it has become more and more. So newspapers have started giving more spaces to them. So I don't blame newspapers if Hindustan Times or Times of India or Indian Express are not giving enough spaces to local football. I don't blame them. The local football will have to come up to that standard, and for that, I would say, of course, the Football Delhi, for which we are here, all of us, thanks to Football Delhi, all of us have met here today, are doing a Soumitra, they are doing a reasonably good job at the moment. But what we have to understand, to promote, what do we call it, promote local football is not newspapers' jobs. It's a job of the local association and the national association. And I'm sorry to say, the national association is not doing its job. The national association has almost become a privatized body. Well, I don't want to get into that any further. Whatever I have said I think is enough. And they have absolutely no concern about what local state associations are doing.
I'd like to add to this. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah. See, it's Sunil Chhetri's birthday today, and hats off to a player like him. But we should understand that Chhetri is a start not because of Delhi's football, but in spite of it. You'd be hard pressed to find an international player before Chhetri from Delhi. Jaydeep would remember, I'm sure. There's a boy called Gurinder Singh who played for a young man. He was the last player from Delhi who played before Sunil Chhetri. So the thing is that you have to get your local league and your system back in order for the entire ecosystem to build.
Siddharth, I was coming to that only. So
Correct.
as coming to Soumitra's question, so it is not a job of the newspaper or the media.
Right.
Media is there to report and to report the success. Media always goes for the success. Whether you blame them or not, that's a different issue altogether. But it's television or newspapers, print media or the websites, they would like to report those who succeed, not the failures, not the failures.
The good stories.
Good stories, not the failures. That's all, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it is the job of the association and job of the, again, I am saying it is the job of the National Association. The National Association is not, I'm not talking about Delhi, they are not concerned about any state association. And whether state association are doing good or bad, and most of them are doing nothing. But nobody pulls them up. What I mean to say, nobody pulls them up. So and the days Suresh and we are talking about, Vijay talking about, those were great days. Those were days when Delhi players were playing all over the country. We wished, Vijay will know, Vijay and Suresh know all of them personally. Wished was BSF captain. Shankar Mukherjee and Devraj Katiyal were playing for great Mafatlal team. Surinder Kumar was playing for Moment Sporting. I can keep on naming players who have played all over the country at that. So that they were being reported by the newspapers. Newspapers
Absolutely.
were reported.
Basically, Jaydeep, what you're saying, there are no icons, there are no heroes to talk about, right?
Not only heroes, I am talking about the lack of organized football.
Yes, I guess
I have nothing against Delhi football. Football Delhi must be doing a good job and trying their best, despite their financial constraint, organizational constraint. They have a lot of problems. I understand. I am being very, doing this for 40 years. I know how much the organizers try hard and still they fail because of so many other reasons. But the thing is that, and again, Soumitra, I am telling you, it is the exit of Durand and DCM has hit Delhi football very badly. Icons for 2 months in a year, you watch icons play in front of you. We have all learned football because of those 2 tournaments. Now Delhi boys have nothing in front of them. And what Joy is talking about is, of course, there are a lot of what I say, Soumitra, a lot of academies are coming up. Good boys are coming up, and as he said, that who's and who's of Delhi, of people of Delhi are coming to, their children are coming to football. But that is also in danger at the moment. In the last 4 months, 80 academies have stopped functioning. 80. And they are not football academies alone. There are other sports also. There must be at least 20 football academies that have stopped. You ask Saji, you will know about it. But nobody has come forward to rescue them. And if you want to play academy football at the national level, which is under 15, under 13, see the licensing criteria. The criteria means you might have to spend at least 20 to 30,000 as operational cost per match.
Good point. In fact,
how many academies in this city, on this country, can spend 20,000 rupees per match as operational cost? You have to stand by two ambulances. How many academies can do it? You tell me.
Just as I'll stop you here, I will take this question to Joy. Joy, when the Indian team was producing that under-17 squad, what kind of experience did you have in terms of scouting talent and putting the best team together? I mean, there were academies, and what Jaydeep just said, that they're not sustainable. But did you find any? What was the picture like? Can you please tell us that? What was the inside story? You were working with the VSIP, and what were the problems?
So yeah, technically we were not directly involved with the scouting of the players and all, but because we were intimately involved in that project for 3 years, we knew quite a bit. Look, the thing is, actually for that under-17 World Cup, they tried their best to find as many players as possible. They had that standard scouting thing that if a player is scouted 2 times, he's reported 2 times, they'll try and bring him. They did all that with a very select group of people. They tried their best to do it. But the truth is, it's a short-term solution. What they tried to do, and they had to, because you have 3 years to try and produce players playing against World Cup kind of teams. Get 30 players together, try and train them as much as you can. Keep adding a few players, dropping players as go, and you go on. They did their best with that. But that is never a long-term solution. It works as it's a stopgap solution कि यार किसी एक team खड़ा करना, and it might have worked. The truth is that if Ghana as a fourth team had not fallen in our draw and we had got one of those, and the team that came from Oceania, we might even have won a match. But it was a stopgap solution at the best of time. It was a very good stopgap solution, but it was a stopgap solution. See, the basic problem lies in the fact that the kind of licensing per se is a very good idea. Why? Because you put some sort of control and system into place. Okay, you try and make sure that people are not stealing money, the accounts are in order. So licensing as a concept is a great concept. Okay, but it's a concept that two things happen. One is it is a good concept in developed football countries where you have that kind of money to do the kind of licensing at every level. And because it costs money. You're saying your coach must have this kind of a license, okay? You need to have this much of space. You need to have this kind of nutrition. You need to have this many camps. These things often in India at the ground level are extremely, extremely difficult to get. So that's what I'm saying, that sometimes it is not a bad thing to move towards licensing, but if you enforce licensing, right now, for example, even before COVID, I mean, in COVID, it has become impossible, as Jaydeep will tell you, that they have all stopped. But even before COVID, the kind of rules are in place. Who can do it? If you're a really big builder who's also wanting to put a team on the side, you have a passion for football, you say, okay, Liverpool Academy, जो करता है मैं वही करूँगा. बहुत अच्छी बात है. But ऐसे तो 2-3 ही academy बन सकते हैं ना, 10 बन सकते हैं, 100 नहीं बन सकते, 1000 नहीं बन सकते. And that is the essential issue. That we have not somehow managed to create a sustainable system of smaller academies where you have some amount of control in it so that the parents are not being cheated, the kids are not being cheated. That there's some amount of control, but not so much control, or we are not so strict that tomorrow, as Jaydeep says, 2 ambulances, where are teams going to get that here? So there has to be somewhere a certain amount of pragmatism. Okay. And that pragmatism is not always there. And I'll tell you why it's not. It's because it's very difficult to focus on 20 things. Today, like even what we are looking at about the AFF and all this, they're looking at 2-3 things. They're looking at saying, okay, we are going to look after, we are going to try and go for big international tournaments like the Women's Under-17 World Cup, maybe the Asia Cup for women, maybe the Men's Asia Cup in time to come. And we are going to try and look at making one big league. But they don't even have the bandwidth to start looking at things like this, which is the academy level, the ground level of sport. Unfortunately, that bandwidth is right now in very short supply, and that's the truth.
Vijay, you played a little bit of football. You've covered a lot of football. I think when we were growing up, we all wanted to work for Hindu because we would get assignments to go and cover each and everything. I mean, given that fact that the Hindu had an edition in Delhi, how did Hindu cover Delhi football? I mean, you heard Jaydeep, you heard Suresh, and would you? I'm sure you would have given double spread stories with photographs.
Even Jaydeep would read the Hindu for local coverage.
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah,
he would come with me and he would encourage me a lot. So let me tell you one thing. I will blame the local media, because why do you need a marketing man to go and tell you to cover match at Ambedkar Stadium? I mean, you can just walk across, right? And it means a lot for a footballer if he plays a game and if he doesn't find his name next day in the newspaper, it's very disheartening. Even you can give 2 paragraphs. If you see newspapers today, you see newspapers like Deccan Herald and a lot of Malayalam newspapers, which I don't get to understand, but I know they give a lot of importance to local sport and they sell. So it is our responsibility, and local sport has just vanished. It is not just football. It is so many events. And in Delhi, I know for sure that there is a gentleman called N.K. Bhatia. He used to visit newspaper offices and end up disappointed next day because they wouldn't have carried the results. Basic results, right? Your job is to write. Your job is to cover local event. You have every right to, glorify Man U or Chelsea or whatever. But what about these local footballers? When would they get into print? When would they be motivated? So Suresh, Jansatta used to have half page coverage of local football. And we have ended up, even Jaydeep da, our semi-final reports and final reports would be the first lead of the local newspaper. Forget the Hindu or the Hindustan Times, a lot of newspapers. So we are primarily to blame for the decline because we have contributed it by ignoring local football. We are very happy to write about the association, but not about the players. So this trend is very disturbing. And yeah, there are a lot of reasons. Death of clubs, vanishing football grounds. It can be a different debate why football has suffered in Delhi, and also the fact that probably there are no heroes left. There is just one Sunil Chetri, and I don't know when he played local football. I don't remember last. So if he comes and plays for a local club, his club, and that will lift the morale of the league and the fellow players and the other clubs. So it is a collective failure, and I am also part of it, definitely. And I was so happy. Joy talked about Shubroto. You know, Joy, the last Shubroto Cup went uncovered. It was not. It finished. The whole tournament finished, and there was no coverage in the local tournament. So just see the degeneration of football coverage. Football coverage. I and Jaydeep, we have spent so many winters at the Ambedkar ground, and we would come back even if we had to write just 3 paras. Fine.
But Vijay,
meet and see young players.
Yes.
So all that has vanished.
I want to say something, Vijay. Let me debate this point. You know, the compulsions for media people like us, especially, you know, corporate-backed brands like Times or HTN Express, also Hindu, there are marketing compulsions. You're fighting for space. You're fighting for space. And obviously, you know, you say that, yes, I'm responsible for not covering, but what can you cover? My question is, what is it that you're going to cover in Delhi football today?
Whenever it was happening, I'm not saying now it is not happening. Forget COVID. Last couple of years, local football is not happening because there is so much of infighting. There are no funds to conduct tournaments. Shambles. So it's a recent phenomena, but the decline has happened over a period of time. It's happened over a period of time. So I'm not saying that it cannot be written about 2 paragraphs. Any newspaper can accommodate. I'm sorry. I've also spent so much time in journalism, but 2 paragraphs you can always accommodate.
मुझे एक बात मैं कहूँ
सुरेश, मैं आपके पास आ रहा हूँ. I want a younger person to debate Vijay's comment that you can always give 2 paragraphs. I want Mihir first and then Siddharth. Suresh, मैं आ रहा हूँ आपके पास.
No, of course, and I think I mean, so 2 paragraphs or 1 paragraph or 2,000 words, it doesn't matter. If it's a good story, it merits a space in the newspaper. So that is, I think all of us would agree in that. So as long as आपकी story अच्छी है, see, I think there are a couple of things. A lot of people, a lot of you here have been in Delhi all your life, so perhaps you'd be able to analyze it better. But from an outsider's perspective, what I've noticed in the last 5 years, that a reason that has contributed to very little coverage to Delhi football is also the fact that a lot of our colleagues, a lot of the fellow reporters are not from Delhi, and hence feign ignorance. There is a complete disconnect between what is a journalist's duty to report local football and what is actually happening at ground level. So, for example, when I was in Bombay, I started out as a cub reporter over here. I used to be at, say, school football matches from 7 in the morning. And it's not just me. The competition was so crazy that Kunal Mazgaonkar, who was with the Times of India back then and now is the media manager for Bangalore FC, because he was so good at it, my editor used to push me to ensure that I was at the ground at 7 a.m. And there was a healthy rivalry there. And it used to then build from there. So we started at Mumbai School Sport Association tournaments, especially football. Then that graduated to MDFA League, the Mumbai League. From Mumbai League, then we started covering the I League, NFL, and those matches. And because we were from a city, we could identify with a particular club from a particular area. We used to go all out and report about it. When I moved to Delhi, the first thing I noticed was there was very little school football. At least I could not find school football as much. But the bigger part of the problem I thought was a lot of us just come here to work, and there is not much investment beyond it. We do our regular working hours. We try to do stories. I mean, a lot of us, I mean, do very good stories. It's not like we don't do stories, but it's just that we have not invested as much time as we can in Delhi football.
Siddharth, I mean,
Yeah.
you're one newspaper where space is a premium. You know,
Yes.
very
And
difficult.
we work in an era where test matches scoreboards go as briefs, and not just us but everywhere. So we've come to this pass, where the first thing we were taught, like we also would remember, that carry the scoreboards in full. So a test match, even if Zimbabwe was playing Bangladesh, I don't think they had their status at the same time. But the scoreboard should have gone in full. Now we are working in a time where a test match, even if Australia is probably playing Pakistan, somewhere West Indies, it's going as a brief. Now that at some level is probably unacceptable to a lot of things, but that is how it has become. We grew up reading the Sportstar. We all owe our. It was the holy grail of local domestic sport. But today it sustains itself on writing about European stars. So that's how it has become, And the decline of local football, local coverage in Delhi has coincided with the rise of live television from Europe. The kids have gotten younger; they want to watch that. And if it becomes policy in the newspaper, how do you fight that? The struggle every day is to find a balance between your coverage and your love and your passion for something which is so beautiful and glamorous on television, Messi and Ronaldo and their battles, plus what's happening back home. And nothing much is happening back home.
Absolutely. In fact, in our edit meetings, the editor would say that carry 8-column picture of Ronaldo's curling free kick.
Imagine.
So
and we should go find it.
Yeah, so we have to do it, right?
Yeah.
सतीश, सुरेश, आप कुछ बोल रहे थे, आप बताइए.
मैं ये कह रहा था कि हम इंग्लिश प्रीमियर लीग छापते हैं, वो सब कुछ छाप रहे हैं, तो हमें इस बात में भी एआईएफ को और लोकल फुटबॉल एसोसिएशन को इसका सर्वे करना चाहिए कि ये हमें जबरदस्ती तो नहीं थोपा जा रहा हम पर. ये कितने लोग उसको पढ़ना चाहते हैं, कितने लोग उसको लाइक करते हैं, कितने लोग ऐसे हैं जो दिल्ली फुटबॉल को अखबार में छपते नहीं देखना चाहते. ये चीजें सब सर्विस में निकल के सामने आनी चाहिए, और तभी हमको एक डेलीगेशन बना के खेल संपादकों से भी मिलना चाहिए, एसोसिएशन वालों को.
आपको मैं एक चीज बताना चाहता हूँ, ये
उनकी ड्यूटी है ये कि ठीक है जो मर्जी छापने के लिए वो स्वतंत्रता है, लेकिन हम उनकी समाज के प्रति कुछ जिम्मेदारियां हैं. लोकल लोगों को सपोर्ट करना उनका दायित्व बनता है. हमें उनको एहसास कराना चाहिए, चुपचाप नहीं बैठना चाहिए. मेरा ये कहना.
मुझे जब मैं एचटी में काम करता था, एवरी फ्राइडे हमारा एक रिव्यू मीटिंग होता था जहाँ पे मार्केटिंग वालों आते थे. दे यूज्ड टू डू लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च, जो आप रिसर्च कह रहे हैं, उसमें उनका कभी वो हमेशा फुटबॉल, यूरोपियन फुटबॉल और इसके आईएसएल, इसके बारे में बात करते थे, और दिल्ली फुटबॉल का कभी बात ही नहीं किया. और देयर इज अ फीलिंग, माय क्वेश्चन टू जयदीप दा, that having an English newspaper in your house is like a status symbol, like having a good mobile phone or wearing a nice wristwatch. It doesn't matter what is the content inside that newspaper. Jaydeep da, would you like to comment on this?
This is something which out of my subject, actually. I don't go to readers' house and ask them what to
No, it has come out from surveys. That a lot of houses have 2 newspapers, Times of India and HT, but nobody reads them.
That's a overall. But how, Soumitra, how does it come down to sports and football in that way?
No.
Why do I want to ask me such questions?
That even if I, let's say, put 2 paragraphs of Delhi football, will it at all help lift the image of the game in the state? That is my question.
Of course, it will help. I think it will help. At least a couple of paragraphs will help, because people who matter will read it. Not every story is read by all the people. If there is a story on corporation, 2 paragraph on South Delhi Corporation, those who are interested in South Delhi Corporation will definitely read it. So if you give 2 paragraphs on local football, a result so-and-so with so-and-so and so-and-so were the scorers, and whether a referee was mildly beaten up before the halftime or no. So whatever, at least people will read it. Those who mattered, they read it.
So
See,
Jaydeep,
I will tell you one thing. One of the referees, he without informing his office, I don't want to name him, from the office, he went on to supervise the Delhi League in Delhi University ground. Okay, and there was some problem, and he was quite badly beaten up by the by the players and the officials for whatever. And I was in HT. He knew that if anybody doesn't report, at least I will report. He knew, so he called me up. He said, Dada, you know what? I said, yeah, I know what happened at the university ground too. He says, please don't report it. He says, why? I said, why? It should be brought, people should be brought to book, those who have beaten you up. He says, no, I went without my office permission. So if it is get published, so my officers will be upset that I went. I said कि मैं चाय पीने जा रहा हूँ, ये बोल के मैं 2 घंटा मैच खिला के आया हूँ. So that means क्या? These people read. That would have people read, and those who matter will read. So it will help Soumitra to an extent. The people who are doing it, I think so.
Yeah. Joy, my question to you. Yes, you wanted to say something, Joy. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So what I want to say is that I think perhaps, and I am being very honest with you here, I believe that, what's happening in the world today is very interesting. It's in a lot of ways because of the internet, and the pandemic is just pushing it further. There's a saying which works even very big in sport. It says that the middle is dead. What is happening is that either you have these huge mega big events, like EPL, like, European leagues, like, Champions League, World Cup, big mega events, or I even take the ISL as a really big, rich event. And you basically have hyper local, smaller events that work. The problem is if you're trying to be somewhere in between, where it means that you still want to rely on television revenue to make yourself survive, you're dead. Because आज television revenue आपको मिलेगा नहीं. You're not going to get television revenue for a mediocre product. So what you have to do then is say that what I cannot try and be is a smaller ISL. It won't work. I will never make the money. And I have a simple belief. If you don't make enough money, you can't give your daughter's wedding every year that saying कि मैं जितना घर में, or son's wedding every year मैं जितना पैसा है खर्चा करके इस साल निकाल देता हूँ. It doesn't work. So it's got to make financial sense. So what I'm saying is, one plus is that today technology has allowed you to cover games much cheaper. Today what used to cost 3 lakhs a day to cover games, say, of football, you can actually do it with 50,000-60,000 rupees with the right cameras and remote cameras and smaller crews. Go hyper, not local, but go small, and don't try and be a small ISL. Celebrate small places. You probably will not be written about in Times of India and Indian Express. Doesn't matter. Have specialist blog. Target the schools that you want to target. Target kids of that age, saying that you have 2 school players in every team. Go after that audience of young kids who are enamored by the Ronaldos of the world, but want to play football. And play football, they just don't watch football, they go and do it. My thing is that if you try and revive Delhi football as Delhi football was, that will never happen. You can never turn back the clock. And the truth of it is that the revenue numbers will never work. If somebody comes to me and says, okay, Joy, cover the league, cover the Delhi Football League, and I'll turn around and say, okay, boss, 6 months of Delhi Football League, the cost of putting it on television is over this year is about 90 lakhs. Let's give a conservative. Where is 90 lakhs going to come? Is 6 months of coverage going to give you 90 lakhs worth of revenue? It's not going to give. So I'm saying, go small, go YouTube, have bloggers writing about it, have school bloggers writing about it, go and attack the schools, go and make it fashionable to play in this Delhi league in top schools in Delhi. Why top schools? I'm not saying top schools because it helps. I'm saying even a Salwan Public School, for example, is a top sporting school in Delhi. Go there, play there, get their players playing in the league, make sure their players are playing, let their parents are watching, reach out to that audience and try and make your product work there, try and make your product go vibrant there. because trying to do a smaller league, trying to do a Delhi league in the same model as, say, the Calcutta League is held, it's not going to happen that way now. You have to reinvent and you have to look at what your advantages are. That's all.
Vijay, you agree with what Joy said?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Joy has he has a vision. So you know, he's been associated with big events, organizing big events. So this, I think, is a very wonderful idea. It should be taken forward by the local association. And like he says, target have small targets. You should dream big, yes, but to dream big, you have to first sleep peacefully.
Take baby steps.
So here I think it's a good idea, and you can get newspapers to come and write about school football, which I don't remember in Delhi school football has been written extensively at any point in my career. I don't remember except for maybe the Subrata school football whenever they would come. Otherwise,
विजय 90s में लिम्का फुटबॉल टूर्नामेंट हुआ था,
वो
वो 15 साल चला वो।
या ठीक है
उसको इसलिए बंद कर दिया गया, उसमें अच्छी पब्लिसिटी दी जाती थी, और ये सुनील छेत्री और बाईचुंग भूतिया सुब्रतो प्लेटफॉर्म में आने से पहले उसमें खेले थे, वहां से लाइमलाइट में आए थे। वो टूर्नामेंट इसलिए बंद कर दिया गया कि जो उसको करवाते थे लिम्का के प्रायोजक, उन्होंने कहा कि ये फुटबॉल जो है वो कलकत्ता का गढ़ है, तो फुटबॉल यहाँ से हटाओ, बंद करो, और 14 साल के बाद अच्छा वाला टूर्नामेंट बंद कर दिया गया।
And we've covered school sports. There newspapers have supplements, school supplements which have school reports. HT has this entire schools football thing supplement.
Very popular.
We are very popular. We have the NI which carries sports.
Which one?
So the thing is that we used to have the Zakir Hussain inter-college football, which is so big. The thing is that all these tournaments have stopped. They've dwindled, they've diminished. It's not that we totally ignored them. So
Soumitra,
I think it's
one second.
Soumitra, can I say one thing? Soumitra.
Siddharth, 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
I could not
complete. I was just making this point.
Allow me to complete, right? Now, there are so many tournaments died because there was no press coverage. So the sponsor will not give you money if there is no coverage in the newspaper. So they will die. And that is why some of these tournaments died, because there was no coverage. So like Limca football, yes, there have been various tournaments at various points. But the fact remains that today football, when you talk about these tournaments, they are not actually competitive tournaments. They are 5-a-side, 7-a-side, I don't know, 6-a-side, whatever. So when I say inter-school, I say the tournaments which were used to be held in the 70s and 80s for government schools and private schools. They would come and play against each other. There were school teams. Students of those particular schools would play. So, and there was good fun. There were a lot of players who came out of those tournaments. But it's a fact. Football has become a forgotten sport in Delhi. And there are many reasons. I'm sure if we can collectively support the local association by writing about the sport, I'm sure sponsors will also come in, and money will come in, and maybe football will bloom in Delhi.
Jaydeep, I have a question. What Vijay said. Don't you think the National Federation has a role here to develop the game in states? Like the BCCI does, it gives state associations a large share of whatever it earns for development of the game. So instead of, they get sufficient money from their sponsors for whatever good reasons, but don't you think a portion of it should come to the state association so that they can develop school sports and then become standalone products?
Maybe you are right, Soumitra, but at the same time, the All India Football Federation doesn't make as much money as the BCCI makes.
No, it doesn't.
The kind of money AFF makes, that is perhaps enough to run their own show. I will, maybe some money they can always give. They can always give some money, a little bit. But I won't expect them to give a lot of money because they don't have that much of money. So I don't blame them on that, certainly. But they can keep they can be more vigilant about these state associations. As far as I know, I can say you very that now the federation, the main complaint is of the federation is the federation officials have absolutely no concern about the state association, whether they are doing the right thing or the wrong thing, and mostly they are not doing anything.
Are they running the federation at all?
Huh?
Are they running the federation?
See, they are running the federations. I see, but they should be, as I said, more vigilant about the state association. But again, Soumitra, I will say what Joy has said is very right. That at least you organize yourself properly. Do small things which will help to this. I'm giving you a very small example. In the 90s, in the late 90s, there used to be a very good small school tournament. Its name was Hind Kishore Football Tournament. That used to be run by Hindustan Football Club of Delhi, which is being run by DK Bose, all of you know. And in that tournament, I remember a young boy, 12 or 13-year-old boy, for 2 years in a row, he was adjudged the best player. Suresh's father, Keval Saab, was one of the judges. I was perhaps 1 year, I was the judge. Surinder Bhai, former Delhi player, was of the judge. And for 2 or 3 years in a row, he was adjudged the best player. His name was Sunil Chhetri. At that time, he was 12 or 13-year-old, I remember. So the tournament used to be organized in a proper manner. So I only remember Sunil, but a lot of other players have come in. So it is certainly a duty of the National Association to an extent, but I don't think, Soumitra, they have so much of money to spend on state association.
No,
and secondly, what Joy said is also right, that whatever little you have, you try to organize yourself with that and try to extract the best out of that. That is also
because I think, Jaydeep, that Joy is facing the heat trying to promote a volleyball league when you have a surfeit of other major leagues. Joy, would you like to comment here?
No, it's a simple thing. You're right. See, the point is, whenever you're doing coverage, today in India, cricket is a 600-pound gorilla. So that takes up 80%, 90% of world money. Then when you take football, even there, football, the ISL, the big leagues who can spend money, take away the rest of the money. Calcutta football takes away money. So that's the thing. Promoting anything small, in my experience, the way to look at it is to turn around and say, what is the greatest advantage that you have? Like everything, every situation, what the disadvantages it has is also an advantage. So the advantage today you have is, right now, things are in a shambles. So you can take hard decisions. You can turn around and say, boss, okay, I'm going to make it a rule saying that I'm going to have 2 school kids playing in every match. I'm going to promote them. I'm going to try and get that support of kids and their parents who today are, watching Messi and Ronaldo and wanting to get into football. I know it because there's a thriving subculture in Gurgaon, for example, where I stay, which is about kids playing football. They're crazy about football in big cities, and that's the tragedy of it. In a time like this, actually, if you look at it, football is a bigger sport in social status of Delhi, would be a bigger sport in a Delhi and a Mumbai than cricket is. It may be international football they are following, but football is a bigger sport. The real cricket is big if you go slightly further down. I'm saying football exists there. It has a certain amount of cachet. Can we take advantage of that? And that's all I believe.
You're right. I mean, you have to catch them young at some stage. Vijay, I was reading one of your stories. You mentioned the last time Mohun Bagan and East Bengal clashed. I think you mentioned Durand probably, or the same. It was in 2004 or 2005.
2004.
2004. Fine. So, you mentioned the hotspots like Ranjan Park, where there's a large section of refugees which has come from East Pakistan, have settled there. But nostalgia is one part, but realities are different. So today we are facing real situations. Do you think if the Durand were to come back to Delhi, I mean, Durand happened in Calcutta, we all know that. Do you think it will bring the interest back among football lovers in Delhi?
I think that you will have to have, if you get the big clubs to come and play, the interest will definitely come back. When did last these Calcutta Giants play in Delhi? Or when did they last clash? I don't remember. Jaydeep would know best.
2004, 2005.
We used to wait. we used to wait. I mean, if you Novi would have reeled off all these figures. He knows best. But if you get to see these iconic clubs, if you get to see these iconic players at the Ambedkar Stadium, which to me is the best football stadium in the country, it gives you such beautiful view. You can hear what the players are telling each other. You know what they're shouting. So,
गाली
huh?
गालियां भी सुनता है
हाँ, गाली भी, yes. मैं और Jaydeep will know best some of the galis. So if you can, people will come to watch, and we have seen packed stadiums. It is not even during times when we were getting to see foreign football on television. We have had a good audience at the Ambedkar Stadium. And even at times when there was a good cricket match going on, Ranji Trophy match at the Kotla, you would have far more people, spectators at the Ambedkar Stadium. So you will have to give them good quality football to watch. Please don't compare this football with foreign football, because then somebody can always turn and say your writing also should be compared with the international football writing. We lack. So it is let us accept that there is a place for local football, there is a place for domestic football. We have to learn to love it and nurture it, like we used to do at the beginning of our careers. I mean, I won't say more than this, but
No, I
tomorrow,
understand.
if there is a tournament, I would love to go and cover it. Yes.
सुरेश जी आपने जब शुरुआत की आपने ओल्ड दिल्ली की बात की आई मीन देयर वाज लॉट ऑफ प्लेयर्स हु केम फ्रॉम ओल्ड दिल्ली अभी क्या सिनेरियो कैसा है कि आल्सो दिस क्वेश्चन टू बोथ सुरेश जी एंड जयदीप दा that what is the scene like in old Delhi? Do you think those guys still love to play football?
ओल्ड दिल्ली का प्रॉब्लम ये हो गया, यंग मैन को पहले बंधु मियाँ चलाते थे, फिर उनके बेटे आए जमाल, फिर उनके बेटे कमाल, अब कमाल की भी डेथ हो गई है। तो धीरे धीरे इसके साथ तब की 70s की यंग मैन और आज की यंग मैन में बहुत फर्क हो गया, वो डिक्लाइन होता चला गया। यंग मैन के साथ मुगल्स का भी ऐसा ही हाल हुआ। मुगल्स के भी जो ऑफिशियल्स थे वो अलग होते गए और मुगल्स भी डाउन हो गई। यंगस्टर्स के कुछ लोग थे, उसमें थोड़ा सा नई दिल्ली के भी लोग थे, वो भी डिक्लाइन होके डिवीजन बी डिवीजन में चली गई। मूनलाइट थी, मूनलाइट अब किसी को बेच दी गई है, मूनलाइट भी बेच दी गई है। तो इस तरह अब वो उतना इंटरेस्ट भी नहीं रहा। पहले ये था कि मोहम्मदन स्पोर्टिंग आती थी, उसके साथ मुस्लिम क्राउड आ जाता था। इसी तरह यंग मैन वगैरह ये खेलती थी जब, तो मुस्लिम क्राउड आ जाता था सपोर्ट के लिए, वो सब अब बंद हो गया। इसी तरह पंजाब की डीसीएम दुरन की बात करें अगर हम, तो पंजाब की टीमें आती थी, पंजाब बंगाल क्लैश होता था। अब वो पंजाब वाले भी सरदार लोग आने बंद हो गए, पंजाब की टीमें खत्म हो गई, पंजाब पुलिस, पीएससीबी, जेसीटी। तो हर तरह अब आप किसी क्राउड को ला नहीं सकते जबरदस्ती। क्राउड भी अब बड़ा फैक्टर बन गया कि आप कितना भी अच्छा कर लीजिए, ये सुनिश्चित गारंटी नहीं है आपकी कि आप क्राउड को ले आओगे ग्राउंड में।
Mihir, you're perhaps the youngest in this panel, so I have a question. You've heard Joy, you heard Jaydeep, you heard Vijay, and they said that we again need to take baby steps to regain that lost glamour of football in Delhi. How would you see this? Do you think there's a way that Delhi football can leverage the digital generation, the technology that is available, and come good and maybe have a long-term vision and maybe in 10 years time make a mark?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is the easiest and perhaps the first step that they should take. I mean, in the sense, if you look at the best example in this case would be the goal that Dalima Chibur scored. I think that one video did more for women's football than anyone has ever done. So the beauty of uh, social media is, I think that's also a downside, but if you can kind of do good things with it, you throw interesting bit of morsels to the crowd, to the people, you do that in a sustained way constantly, you get them interested in your product. And then of course, the challenge for you is to bring them to the stadium. It's very easy for people to just sit in their living rooms and watch that video and say, "Ki wah kya goal mara." But the challenge is to get those people to the ground. And that is something that only the people who are in charge of the sport can do. Media can help, but only if the product is good. Like Joy said, you go hyper local. I mean, it is, you can use all the jargons, you can use all the sexy bits about social media and all, but if you don't let people play, and people shouldn't be struggling to play. I shouldn't be living in Mayur Vihar, and to for a good football match I shouldn't be traveling to Vasant Kunj or Dwarka. There should be a place for me in Mayur Vihar or Akshardham to play, a good space. Similarly, we shouldn't get too lost in fancy bits. Like Vijay sir said, you have Ambedkar Stadium, which is a very good football stadium, a very, very nice, cozy place to go and watch football. So then you don't need the jazz of a JLN to hold a local football match. You hold it in Ambedkar. You need a basic ground, that's it. वैसे भी, accept it or not, I mean, people are not coming to watch matches. So then why not use a stadium which is good and intimate uh, to use it? We can use Twitter, we can use Instagram, but if you don't have that bit sorted, then आप कितना भी Twitter, Instagram कर लो, आपके followers बढ़ेंगे, but that will be virtual. It won't be a real thing.
Right. Siddharth, what is...
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I'd like to add on this the fact that the Ambedkar has always been the epicenter of football. Kaushik sir also said कि जो Muslim है walled city के वो नहीं आते, but that's also the sign of the times that though the young boys from the walled city don't venture out into this part of the town anymore. It's how what's been happening all these days. Also, the thing is that we should the thing is that they have 2 metro stations. The connectivity is brilliant. In the last 15 years, I would mark out three events where the crowds came to Ambedkar. It was probably the 97 Durand Cup when FC Cochin was playing. All the South Indians living in RK Puram and Mayur just came in droves. The 2004 Santosh Trophy at Ambedkar, when all the northeastern people just came, and then when India would play the Nehru Cup in 2007, so it's not that the crowds don't come to watch football, but the thing is, if the product, like we've learned to call all sports events as products. I don't know why, but if the product is attractive enough, people will come. And yes, the newspapers do take it up. I remember how we went to town with all these 3 events. I was working with the Pioneer in '97 and FC Cochin and I am Vijay. I mean, it was brilliant. Similarly, for the Santosh Trophy in 2004 and the Nehru Cup, we actually took out space and kept space for these guys. The Indian did. I remember headline. We had this. The Indian team had a free day, and we went to the hotel in the Meridian, and we just spent the entire day. And we said, "There's an Indian team in town, and it was a football team." So those kind of things. We love these guys. We love what they do. We appreciate this struggle, but we have our compulsions. We have to understand that, and the idea is trying to draw a balance here, always.
Yes, I mean, I think one good way is to leverage digital, because whenever we talk about coverage or media, invariably we end up talking about newspapers where space is finite and is increasingly becoming premium. I think we have to look at the entire gamut of media, all the platforms that are available. Joy very clearly said television is clearly a no-no. I mean, space in newspapers are finite. I think the best way forward will be the digital way. And I would like to have your comment here, Jaydeep. Do you think digital is the way forward?
It must be, since everybody is saying it must be the way forward. I'm not See, as you said that the local football and the football should be covered and all those things. Yeah, what Joy said is right, or the Vijay was said is right. A lot of the school football is being played. They should be given more space, and at the same time there are people but we don't look at them. I can name 3 people football at the moment, those do not have a steady income, but they run clubs. At least two lower division clubs they run on their own money. From where they get their money, nobody knows. At least there is one person in Delhi football who regularly withdraw money from his provident fund to run a club, to pay for the jersey, to pay for the tiffin, to pay for the boots, to pay for the conveyance of the boys. They are doing it, but they are somehow or the other. They are, as you said, Siddharth said, it has become a product. It has become a product from the top. As I told you, the national body has become almost a privatized body, and as if they are the role model. Everybody is trying to follow them in the same manner. See what Siddharth said is, of course, right. They don't come out of their wall city to this time, but again, the people of Wall City have stopped playing football for the last, because if you look at the teams of the Wall City for the last 20 years, they were not having any local players at them. They were getting players from Punjab and Haryana, even the teams like City Club or National, or for Mughals, or for that matter. So yeah, a right kind of balance has to be struck. That I think your digital thing is very fine, but people, Soumitra, who are having so much passion, even in these days, they don't get even a line from any of us, as not a line from us, but the team which has showed how a spectator-free football match can be played even 2 years before pandemic came in at the Nehru Stadium. They were given much more space than these people. I can name two people, Soumitra, who have no steady income. They are running two local clubs in Delhi. How they are running, only I know. And they know. Perhaps I also don't know. They know. But none of us has come forward to give them a little bit of encouragement. So, Soumitra, your digital thing is very fine. That's the call of the hour, perhaps, the call of the time, perhaps. I cannot say but also we have to strike a balance, see the other side. Football is not business, Soumitra. Football is passion. Take it from me. It's not a business. How many clubs in this world are making money, Soumitra? How many clubs in this world are making money?
Vijay, you have to come in and control Jaydeep. He's getting very emotional. What is the balance according to you?
Balance in, I respect Jaydeep because he is
Absolutely.
he's my football guide, my football guru. So I will not contest, but he has a point. But I will also say that he's talked about somebody who is sustaining a football club. So why can't we help him sustain by coverage? Has any one of us written about it? No. Right? It is, football has vanished from World City for many reasons, because they now watch cricket. They find cricket more attractive, T20 cricket more attractive, which Joy promotes in such a big way, So, but football is a poor man's game, and we probably forgot to write about the poor man. We are busy writing about the big football, which doesn't need us actually. The football which needs us, the footballers who need us are probably orphaned because we have forgotten them. That is my feeling. I'm not blaming anyone. Everyone has his constraints about why they cannot include 2 paragraphs in a newspaper page when they have three pages. But we have forgotten our poor footballers. That is the truth.
Siddharth,
I'll be happy to be corrected. I'll be very happy to be corrected.
Point taken. Siddharth and Mihir, defend yourself.
In the mid 90s, there was this ex-player who came to our office and saying that he wanted to start an academy. Today, he runs a pretty successful academy, and his basic premise was that he wants to teach rich kids. That was what he kept saying: rich kids. I want the rich kids to play. Now, whether he was trying to do them service, I don't know, but it was surely not for the service for the game. And like as Vijay said, that it's a poor man's game. And in Delhi, the idea of any sport was a poor man's sport, was a middle class sport. That is disappearing. The concept of Delhi football has moved to Noida, it's moved to Dwarka, it's moved to, as Joy says, Gurgaon. There are rich academies there. The moment kids start to stand up to the RWAs and fight for their space in the parks, that's when the idea of football in the Delhi in a very holistic way will change. And for us to give us that space, it has to start from them first. We've done a bit. We try to do a bit. Like I keep saying, it's a dilemma on a daily basis. Yeah, boss, we are ignoring this, we're ignoring that. But yes, I mean, the larger it runs. What do you do?
No, I agree that it is not the media's job to make something come alive again. I mean, media will only participate when things come alive. And because there are many compulsions. I mean, don't forget that we are all products of the system, and the system is changing very rapidly.
I'm probably the last of a generation which who started their formative years typing out press releases, bunches of them. I don't see anybody doing that because the press releases don't come anymore. There's no space for press releases. It's just not my newspaper. It's across the board. So there has been a transformation, whether we like it or not. But yeah, we have to live with it.
Okay, we are coming very close to our 90-minute deadline. I think we will just go around for your last comments. We'll start with Suresh ji. आपने इतना सब कुछ सुना, आपको इतना कुछ बोला कि मीडिया का रोल गोइंग फॉरवर्ड क्या होना चाहिए दिल्ली फुटबॉल के लिए, इंटरनेशनल फुटबॉल के लिए, दिल्ली फुटबॉल के लिए मीडिया का रोल क्या होना चाहिए? व्हाट इज योर व्यू पॉइंट एंड योर लास्ट क्लोजिंग रिमार्क्स इन शॉर्ट?
मैं चाहता हूं कि किसी बड़ी शख्सियत को साथ जोड़ा जाए। मैं आपको एक उदाहरण देता हूं। 1950 के दशक में प्रेसिडेंट राजेंद्र प्रसाद प्रेसिडेंट स्टेट फुटबॉल टूर्नामेंट का प्राइज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन किया करते थे। वो रेगुलर रहते थे। एक बार वो बिहार पे दौरे पे थे और उस दिन फाइनल था प्रेसिडेंट स्टेट फुटबॉल टूर्नामेंट का। उनके सचिव ने फोन किया कि आज फुटबॉल का टूर्नामेंट का फाइनल है, क्या इसे पोस्टपोन कर दिया जाए? तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, मैं आ रहा हूं। तो टूर्नामेंट पोस्टपोन नहीं होना चाहिए। तो ये इस तरह की कमिटमेंट, इस तरह की शख्सियत अगर कोई आके जुड़ेगी तो हमें कवरेज देनी पड़ेगी। तो मैं चाहता हूं कि इस तरह की हम कोई 2-4 शख्सियत ढूंढें फुटबॉल दिल्ली, ताकि उनको हम आगे लाएं, उनको लाएं तो उनके साथ मीडिया भी आए और कवरेज मिले।
Vijay, any suggestions on who could these 2 persons be or 1 person be?
Sorry?
I mean, you heard what Suresh said.
Yes.
He said that we should have somebody like that who can actually draw the people, the passionate, some big guy. Who can be this big guy?
See, you will need a sponsor. Now, Delhi football will have to find a sponsor and look to have one tournament at least in a season, a tournament involving, say, top 12 clubs of the city. And I am retired now, but I would love to cover one such tournament with Jaydeep and Suresh, Kaushik, and this young man, Mihir Vasavda. He is a very bright young reporter. And Siddharth, he has written so much on Delhi football. So I would love to cover one tournament in their company. That is my honest desire. And I hope Delhi football organizes one such tournament and Joy can come and do the marketing for it.
Okay, Joy can do the marketing. Jaydeep, I mean, you heard Suresh, you heard your good friend Vijay. And what's the way forward for the media to lift the image of Delhi football?
See, everybody here, whosoever was talking, from Vijay to Joy to Suresh to Siddharth to like you and Mihir, everybody loves football. All of them are lovers of football. I sincerely believe they would like to do something, but Delhi football also will have to do something. They have to do little bit of success has to be there. No sponsor will ever come if you have no success. Sponsors don't come for promotion. No sponsor ever come from promotion. Not in my lifetime I have seen. If anybody is saying, the moment a sponsor says, I have come to promote the sports, I know he's lying. He's lying through his teeth, actually.
No,
so football, also Delhi football will have to, in that case, sit across with the media people and talk with them that what could be the mutual idea to take Delhi football ahead. So all people are responsible in the same way, and everybody will have to come forward at least one step forward to do what to do, find out what to do about it.
Okay. Joy, Joy, what? Suppose you were made the marketing manager of Delhi football, what would you do?
Me?
Wake up, Job.
Joy.
But two things I want to say. One is that I'll just tell you that there's an organization called Make My Trip, which is a NASDAQ listed company run by Deep Kalra, one of the most successful companies in India and now in the world. Okay, you all heard of Make My Trip. Now, Make My Trip, the son of Deep, was a footballer in Delhi who played football in school level and has now gone to Germany on a sort of study comes learning football, this thing for 5 years, where he's going to go there. I'm not saying he's the right guy. What I'm trying to say is that there's a whole generation of very influential people whose kids are crazy about football. Take advantage of that. I'm not saying that that means leave out the poor kids. In fact, take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that football in many ways has touched a lot of influential people. Okay, you go to any of these Delhi International Football League matches, the football is rubbish. I mean, not rubbish, but it's still football. But the kind of people that you have there, if you can tap them and say, and let me tell you, the kind of money that we are talking about is peanuts compared to the kind of money that any sustainable investment does. I would target people like that through their kids. That's the only way to get to them, because the capital city, if you can do a league, very, very youth oriented, but the only problem is to make this happen, you literally have to tell everyone that, these are the things that need to be done to make this work. And you need everyone across to sit across the table, even in football Delhi, to say that, okay, this is who we can target, this is what we can do.
All right.
The truth is, the best times in everything is when you've hit rock bottom. And either Delhi football right now is in rock bottom or very close to rock bottom. So this is the time to turn it around and say, can we make a difference? I know that the current administration is trying to make a difference. Let's see what we can do here.
Siddharth?
I'd love to help us on a personal basis. All of us, I know we love the sport. We'd love to help.
I think that's why all of us are here today for this chat, and we have given you your time. And Siddharth, your last comments.
Yeah, the thing about Delhi football sitting with the media, I don't think Delhi football is friendlier than the ever than it is now. It's on the friendliest basis. So that apart, yeah, get the league in order. Mark out slots and mark out quotas that you have to have at least 4 local players, 2 juniors players, like school level or college level. College level, university sports has stopped. Not just Delhi, all over. That's the worst bit. All your cricket at one level used to come from the universities. Your hockey was from there. That has stopped. To get kids, get the government school kids to start playing football again. Give them at least 2 spots in the starting 11, and then you get two big names from outside. If you can sign one and play them up. And yes, for the big events, don't call a Salman Khan or a Virender Sehwag like you would do, for the Nehru Cup. We are going to watch Sunil Shetty and Baichung play. Why call these guys? And make it a point to latch on to any international match that you can get your hands on. A couple of years ago, I think Guwahati couldn't host a match, some India match. I don't remember which one. I told Sadi that just opt to play here in Delhi. Get them here. But somehow, these things, I don't know how they work out. They fall through. But the idea is if you want to start getting the crowds, get the India team to play. If you want to get Chetri back to playing in Delhi, and he won't be playing for a local team for a long time, let him at least play for India in Delhi. That'll get people coming to watch.
That's a very good definition for balance, I think.
Yeah, there should be active things happening at the Ambedkar, all the time. At least once every 4 months, there should be a match, a big match, a big name. And yeah, start the tournaments again. You should, if Mohan Bagan in East Bengal get people from CR Park, they should be Gokulam coming to play from Kerala. Probably a Northeast team playing regularly. JCT should be allowed to come back and play here. You should do those things. Mohammedan Sporting should be a regular fixture. Nobody gets crowds moving in Delhi like Mohammedan Sporting would.
Why it's across India, not only
across India? Yeah, I mean, no bigger pan-Indian idea at the moment for the like them. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Siddharth. We'll close with your comments. You're the youngest. you have to take the media and Delhi football forward. So your last comments.
Well, there are plenty of advices and sound ones already made for what can be done to make it better. From media's point of view, I think the easiest and the best thing that we can do is to go out and report. I think local reporting is the essence of journalism. I mean, I'll give an example. I and Siddharth, the first time when we met was in Durban covering a football World Cup match, Germany versus Spain. The last time we met was at Subrata Cup at, I think, afternoon at Ambedkar Stadium.
We
So
was Brazil, Holland.
Oh yeah, Brazil, Holland at Port Elizabeth. So that's the range we are talking about. I think as a journalist, we should not be looking down at a local event. We should be rather celebrating it. And I think that extra effort, if we make, regardless of whether the football or a hockey match or any sport is good or bad, it is a secondary thing. From a journalist point of view, I think the least we can do is to make an effort to go at the ground and at least make our presence felt.
You have to. In fact, that's a nice way of putting things. Whether you cover a World Cup match, but finally you have to come down to your roots. I mean, that's where the beauty lies. And as Joy said, that he gave the example of make my trip, and this should be make my football and football Mary Jaan. Like Dilli Mahi said that football is my jaan. So thank you, gentlemen. It was wonderful conversing with all of you. As I said, Mihir, nice to meet you. Siddharth, same. Jaydeep, may your passion become stronger than ever before. Joy is the quintessential CEO, so he's spoken business. Vijay talked about nostalgia, and Suresh Bhai spoke about old Delhi. It was fantastic to have all of you here. And on behalf of Football Delhi, it was a wonderful session, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.